Dragon Con. Caro from the BritTrack here, the director. With me today are a wonderful bunch of folks. Today we're going to be talking about the missing episodes of Doctor Who. So we're just going to chat about all the information related to that, and we've got a few questions to see if they can answer and help us out. With me tonight, we've got Alan. Say hi, Alan.
Howdy, y'all.
Alan is an amazing writer, and he'll tell you a little bit later at the end of the panel about his wonderful works. I also have with me the amazing podcast, Watchers of the Fourth Dimension, and with me are Dawn. Say hi, Dawn.
Hi.
Anthony. Say hi, Anthony, their audience.
Hello.
Julie. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And Reilly. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. This is a great evening for a wonderful chat. So we're going to get right into it. Doctor has something very curious about the show. The show's been around for a really long time, as we know, and there's this issue with missing episodes. So why are episodes missing from Doctor Who? Let's go ahead and start with Julie. Why are they missing?
Of course, you picked me. All right. So reasons why they're missing is they're back in the 60s. There wasn't this idea of reruns or, oh, hey, we're going to be playing these episodes over and over again. So there was this, kind of one and done feel. So after a while, the BBC was like, well, we need to make some room or, just there's a lot of film just lying around. So a good bit of it was burned or reused for something else. And that's why some of the film is missing. Okay. Anthony, do you want to add anything? Because did I mess up?
I mean, that pretty much sums it up.
Well, there is one other thing. The British Actors Union, they would not allow, they didn't have it contracted to do more than an airing twice. The first airing and the second airing most of the time. And so they wouldn't want to have to pay the actors again to show it a third or fourth time. So why keep it around? It's not like there'd be digital streaming services later that might want to show it, and a lot of people would be willing to pay a lot of money for it, but
It's important to note also that television was viewed as a disposable commodity at the time. It wasn't something that was going to be stored, and kept around for a long time. And so it's actually, you can kind of ding the BBC for, loss of episodes, but the amount of Doctor Who from the 60s that exists is actually remarkable. There are a lot of series that don't exist at all. The early seasons of the Avengers are pretty much non-existent. So the fact that we have so much content from Hartnell and Troughton is incredible.
That's actually quite true, because Monty Python's Flying Circus was almost completely wiped. If someone at the BBC hadn't contacted Terry Gilliam to tell him, hey, we're throwing your show away, you want to come pick it up? That'd be lost too. But there's actually another reason why we have more missing episodes during the early seasons. The wiping of the tapes ran between 1967 up until the late 70s. As late as about the mid-1990s, a station in Africa contacted the BBC and said, hey, we've been going through our archives. We have the entirety of Doctor Who seasons 1 and 2. Would you like them? Notice this is after videotapes were a thing. And they're like, no, that's fine. We don't need it.
We've already got it, I think, was what they said. Because the person in the department they contacted didn't realize that some of those episodes were still missing. So that station in Africa then went and wiped those tapes, which is awful when you think about it. Because there was Doctor Who that we don't have today that still existed somewhere in the world in about 1998. Additionally, the one thing I want to talk about here is really British TV as a medium was very much spawned off of the idea of broadcast theatre. So if you think about it, a lot of the shows that were on at the time, Armchair Theatre being a prime example, the concept of going to a theatre is you're going to see a performance, and I think as someone already said, it's one and done. And the idea that this came out of theatre gives it that much more experiential, you see it once and it's over with kind of vibe, which was really part of why they didn't keep the tapes, in addition to keeping the space on the shelves and so on. As Alan said, shows like The Avengers missing, Quatermass missing, A for Andromeda.
Mm-hmm.
But this wasn't just a British thing. There are some treasures of American TV that are missing. If you think about the Super Bowl, probably one of the most broadcast events on US TV, the early Super Bowls are entirely missing as well. I think of the first 5, I think 2 or 3 of them are missing. So
I don't know how this kind of correlates to American television, but with the BBC, they didn't actually establish an archives department until 1974. And the first complete catalog of their holdings wasn't completed until 78. So I think it's really interesting that, it's not even, that there wasn't even the ability to keep these things or to have them cataloged in that kind of way until that, a decade after what we're talking about.
You also had different departments within the BBC that were keeping archives, but they all assumed that it was the other department's responsibility to keep these. So they would go ahead and wipe theirs, just assuming that another one would take care of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what are some theories on where the episodes are and what do you think is the likelihood of any being discovered or returned?
Well, I will say definitively that they are not in my basement.
So what do you think are some theories on where the episodes are, and what do you guys think is the likelihood of any of them being found?
Go, Anthony.
Okay, so if there are any left, there are really 2 places they could be. One would be in foreign archives. So the last returns that came in 2013 when they found The Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear came from archives in, I believe, Nigeria. Equally, there may be a few episodes, and the predominant missing episode hunter, Philip Morris, has said that he believes there are 6 of them that are in the hands of private collectors. So if there's anything else out there, those are the 2 places that they could be. There is an ongoing search of foreign archives. Whether or not anything will show up, we don't know, hopefully. And they have a dialogue with some private collectors who they believe may have episodes to try and persuade them to lend their film canisters to the BBC to copy.
Yeah, well, likelihood, I think there could be a few more that are returned, but I honestly think that at this point, I don't anticipate all of them being ever returned.
There was the big rumor around 2013 when the other 2 stories came back that there was this this motherlode of missing items that was about to be returned, that the BBC were about to acquire. Nothing ever came of that. It'd be nice, but
I think it's just supposed to be pessimistic, expect nothing, and be grateful if something does come down the line.
yeah.
I mean, I remember that started out as what they called the Omni rumor, that was everything had been found by Phil Morris.
Right, exactly.
And then that got downscaled to what they called MEW, which was Marco, Enemy, and Web. So Marco Polo, Enemy of the World, and The Web of Fear. 2 of which did get returned. Marco Polo wasn't part of it. So I feel like there's no smoke without fire. Marco Polo was the one story that was sold more places in the world than anything else.
Right.
In the entirety of Doctor Who, it's actually quite a fluke that we don't have it. So if anything is going to get returned, it's probably going to be that one.
Okay, that's pretty fair. So which one story would you like to see the most returned? I figure we'll go around and ask you. Then y'all burning to tell us the answer to this question. So let's start with Don. Don, what do you think? Which episode?
Okay, if it was just one episode, it would be episode 4 of The 10th Planet, because it would complete the serial. We get the finale of Hartnell, and I think that's a good way of completion. If you're talking a full serial and not just an episode, it would be Power of the Daleks.
Yeah.
You get Troughton's first appearance, you get the Daleks coming back, and I really like the serial, so I would like to see what it actually looked like.
Okay. Anthony, what do you think?
So single episode, I'm with Don, 10th Planet episode 4. It would complete the story. It would give us Hartnell's last episode. Yes, please. If we're going to go for a full story, I'm going to go for something that I don't think any of my podcast conspirators would expect me to say, and say The Smugglers. Which is...
I'm having internet issues. I thought you said The Smugglers. Something is broken.
So when we reviewed the soundtrack of that story for the podcast, we all described it as being incredibly boring. There's no incidental music. The storyline, not particularly engaging. But I have a feeling that it was incredibly well directed. It was one of the first significant uses of location work. I have a feeling it probably looked phenomenal, and it's probably one of the stories that would benefit the most from being seen.
That's kind of what happened with Enemy of the World. It was not one of the most popular stories ever, but then when it was finally seen, it's amazing. And it all comes down to the direction and the cast performances. I mean, it's just unbelievably good.
I mean, I remember the last time I did my a full show watch through in 2011. I struggled with it, and then when it came back, I mean, it's gone into. It's easily now one of my favorite Second Doctor stories. It's amazing. You're spot on, Alan.
Okay. Julie, what do you think?
I'm going to agree on episode. If it's the one episode, it's obviously the end of Hartnell. If I'm going to go with full serial, I always go back to Marco Polo. That's just one that I love. It was the first one that we came across that was missing. But what I like about it is some of the costumes were amazing. I'd love to see that. There was a sandstorm that I really wanted to see how they had done that. And then there's this one story that I believe, what was her name? Pink Cho? I believe was her name. She gave this story that I feel like just was very beautifully done. And I really would have liked to have seen her do that. So, Marco Polo.
Okay. Reilly, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say The Smugglers, but Anthony...
what are the odds?
Not only took my joke, but then actually gave a good sound argument against it being a joke. So then I agree that, 10th Planet, that's all well and good. But I really loved Underwater Menace. I loved it. I loved it all the way through, and I don't necessarily have a specific episode, but the Fall of Atlantis would have been, that particular episode would have been really cool to see.
A lot of the location shooting of that one was missing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a favorite of mine, and I just think visually it's going to be stunning. So I would say Underwater Menace.
So, Reilly, we both picked stories directed by Julia Smith.
Yeah. I had no idea you were going to go there.
See, she's a great director. You guys didn't agree with me before. I was right.
Okay. Alan, what do you think?
All right, to bring it on home, my vote always and forever goes to a Dalek Master Plan. Because for one, it's phenomenal. The first 6 episodes are some of the best television that Doctor Who did in the 60s. The last 2 episodes are spectacular. It gets a little ropey in between there. The likelihood of it happening is a little low because it's, I think, the only serial that never sold overseas. So there is very little chance of any, outside of the UK holding of any print of this. So since that probably will never happen, my vote is going to go to the Mythmakers. It is so fun. It's one of the best scripts that Doctor Who's ever done. The dialogue is just sparkling. It's just incredible. And I think it's got so much wit, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun.
A quick note on Dalek's Master Plan. I believe, if I recall correctly, viewing prints were sent to Australia, but they didn't buy it.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, that is true. So there is one chance in a million.
But interestingly, we shouldn't have any episodes of it, and we have 3 of the 12.
Right, exactly. Well. And those 3 are so good.
Yeah.
Hartnell's performance in episode 10 is incredible.
Yes. Yes.
That's fair. I'm surprised that nobody went with the Yeti episode, the Web of Fear, excuse me.
The fear of web.
Excuse me.
Fear of Yeti.
I would love to see that in its entirety, just out of pure curiosity. I know that there's not much out there. It's the first appearance of Nicholas Courtney, so.
And I mean, there's only one episode of the 6 that's currently missing because that was part of the 2013 haul. But episode 3, the missing one, was his actual first appearance. And the speculation is that is one of the ones in the hands of a private collector. When Philip Morris found the story in Nigeria, he is adamant that all 6 episodes were there on the shelf, and someone lifted it before he could get them back.
It was that good, apparently.
It was the master.
Right. I would really want to see that in its entirety myself. So, on to our next topic, but which one story would you most like to see, which we've talked about? And moving on to what are the BBC doing to enable fans to experience the missing episode? So what's up with the BBC? How are they making sure that people are getting this information, seeing it, hearing it, and whatnot?
The first real effort that was made was the release, because every one of the missing serials exists in a soundtrack format, usually by fans who like literally held tape recorders up to the speaker on their television and recorded it and kept the tapes. So we have soundtrack for every missing story, and the BBC releasing those on cassette and then later on CD was really the first effort that was made to get those into the hands of fans so that we could experience them.
And those cassette releases are fantastic. Those ones from the early 90s, they're really great ones of the power of the Daleks and the evil of the Daleks, which were narrated by Tom Baker. And my podcast co-conspirators have heard me ramble on at length about how wonderful these are and how nostalgic they are. But it's just bonkers. And I think they are out there on the internet if you know where to look. And they are 100% worth tracking down and listening to. Of course, there was one way of experiencing them before that, the novelizations.
Well, that's true. That's true. I didn't think of it in that term.
So
but that's really more of an adaptation from rather than but it was the way. That was the VHS tape, that was the DVD, the Blu-ray of its time. It was the only way, since there were no repeats of the episodes, the only way you could experience them.
So in the 70s, where, as Alan said, no repeats, nothing being released on home media because it didn't exist, it was the only way fans of a certain generation experienced any Doctor Who story, missing or not, that wasn't being broadcast at the time. So as they were adapting those missing ones for some fans, that's how they got to know them. We've certainly got one listener on our podcast who comments on all of our stuff talking about the books every single time. And don't get me wrong, it's wonderful to hear it because it's great to hear how they differ and what that experience is like. But that's definitely the original way.
Also, within the past few years, the BBC has contracted out to another company called Planet 55 that's doing animations for the missing serials that are based on those soundtracks that were recorded by fans.
Yep.
Which are very good.
Yes, they are.
They are very good.
Yes.
They started releasing those in 2006, was the first one, when they did 2 episodes of The Invasion, different animation studio back then. And then they're still going to this day. There's still a lot they haven't animated, but most recently they released the Faceless ones, and then in a couple of months' time, they're doing Fury from the Deep as well.
Yes.
Which is coming out. So what would you like to see? We know Fury of the Deep's coming out, but what would you guys like to see animated?
Dalek's Master Plan.
Yeah.
Anything that doesn't already exist, I think that would be a great serial for them to do. They've already got the Dalek models built. I just think it would be a great thing to move on from, since they just finished remastering and redoing Power of the Daleks.
I think that's the gold standard that everyone would like to see. Realistically, that's 9 missing episodes. That's a big chunk of budget. I think something a little smaller might happen sooner. Much as I would love to see DMP.
Julie, are you thinking Okay, my idea was that I picked something that was only going to be 4 episodes and would probably be cheap to do animated.
The Celestial Toy Maker?
Yes.
No, but I like that.
Great idea.
That's my choice, Billy.
All right. I mean, Celestial Toy Maker is a great choice, but go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, I was going to say that the one I went with, it's not my favorite. I don't think it's anyone's favorite, but I just think it would be. It's only 4 episodes.
Okay.
It really only has, if I recall, maybe like 4 different sets, so the animation can be done cheaply,
Mhm.
and it has a creature in it that probably would look better animated than it did in real life. And that would be Galaxy 4, and I'm talking about the Chumblies.
Yes.
Dumblies.
So
Yes.
just to clarify, your argument is, hey, nobody likes this, but it'll be cheap.
Yes.
The marketing just writes itself. I like it.
But it does
I
make
mean,
sense.
the goal is to do all of them, right?
Yes,
So,
eventually.
let's keep the price low. Let's just keep the train going.
All snark aside, I would love to see Galaxy 4 animated as well.
I love it. I think it's a fun story. It's not
I would-
great, but it's fun.
I would love to see the Mythmakers animated.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I want to see
Yeah.
it done sort of stylistically, where it's like
Yes.
hieroglyphics and, just really, really kind
Ancient
of.
Greek. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it in ancient Greek vase format.
That's,
right.
yeah.
But no,
Like,
I mean,
yeah.
Alan's already argued for that story coming back, but I mean, that story is so funny. The comic timing is brilliant, and
It really is.
The comedic performances in particular. I mean, that's like, I mean, the lines are there, but like the delivery and how the characters are played up.
and it shows a facet of Hartnell's performance that you don't see a lot of, and that comedic side. I think it's brilliant for that reason.
Yeah.
Exactly. But even if with animation, you do kind of miss a little bit of that,
Yeah.
because you don't know exactly how he reacted facially and physically to things.
I love how none of us had mentioned the massacre at all at any time.
That's true. That's a very good point.
Because our podcast is not the biggest fan. And I also think that from a animation perspective, they're all sitting in a pub somewhere, or like there's not a really good number of locations, and the Doctor and Steven are separated the entire time, just about. So I just think that, there's a lot of reasons why they wouldn't want to do that.
But at the same time, once you build a digital puppet, basically, of Hartnell, he is usable as another character. So you have 2 characters built from the same, digital wireframe.
Yeah,
basically.
but the amount of animation to get that hat that he wore.
That's true. That's a good point.
I mean, that's a couple $100 right there. So.
Right.
So we haven't got there yet on the podcast, but I know if we had, nobody would be saying the Space Pirates either.
I was actually going to say it as a joke, but
Is that
It'll be Reilly. It's going to be Reilly's favorite cereal of the whole thing.
Well, I'm a big fan of the 1984 Robert Ulrich Space Pirate movie. And if anyone can remember that,
No. If we had, we'd try to forget.
well,
I think one of the most likely ones to be done next would be Evil of the Daleks,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
and it's so good.
I mean, then they would have a complete run from the moon base through to the Evil of the Daleks. So
Right.
it would make
So
sense.
It might get done in time for a Blu-ray release of that complete season.
You've also got the marketability factor of the Daleks and
Exactly.
getting as many of their early stories out there as possible.
Exactly.
And that's why I really want them to do Daleks Master Plan, because you get all the Dalek stories and you get the evil Christmas tree. Just
Yes!
all I really want to see.
yeah.
But with the 60th anniversary not too terribly many years away, it would be a great time to release Evil.
Yeah. This is true. It's very true. Anyone want to see the Highlanders?
Yes.
Julie
I-
knows, yes.
Yeah. Julie's all about the Highlanders.
Yes. Yes. I might be a really big fan of Jamie. So yes, obviously seeing that first story, and thanks, Don. I
here to
appreciate
help.
that.
I mean, Julie, it's just attractive men in kilts. That's kind of your thing. So
Which,
I mean,
was that the secondary title for that serial?
Oh yeah.
Actors Men in Kilts, I think.
Yes.
I will say that when the guys who are basically manage the the animation releases, were at Gallifrey 1, and they said that the Highlanders is not one that's going to be done anytime soon. It's got an enormous cast for that time frame. It's got a lot of guest characters, and having to animate that much tartan would
Yes.
be
Be a
very
lot.
hard to do. So it's
That's-
not going to be one that'll happen soon, I don't think.
Yeah, because they did that in the Macro Terror when he did his little dance.
Right.
But but yeah, I could see that the tartan being a problem.
Yeah.
So fans are supplementing episodes and making stuff. So what are some that are your favorites that are out there, and or maybe not your favorites that are out there?
Don.
Okay. I think my favorite is the Mission to the Unknown recreation that was done by the University of Central Lancashire.
Absolutely.
I think that was an amazing idea, just to do something recreating those 1960s techniques. Very educational, plus their final product was just incredible.
Absolutely.
Apart from that, as we move down in levels of quality, one of which I won't ruin because it's totally Reilly's baby, there are many different ways to experience these stories on YouTube. One that I did, I'm not sure if it was a good idea, but I did it anyway, for Marco Polo, there's a channel called Who Recons. Someone used these missing episodes as an exercise in basically teaching themselves CGI modeling. Admittedly, a lot of it looks like, like PS1 era cutscene graphics. But I really admire the fact that they took all this time to animate all of those missing episodes.
Don, I
Very impressive.
checked in on them. They're still going. 3 months ago they uploaded the Wheel in Space.
Yeah, it's very easy to bag on projects like that, like, oh, it doesn't look as good as this or that. But these are just people in their spare time giving you something to watch. And as technology progresses, more things are being happened. Like there's one thing called Absinthe, which lets you take stills and animate them based on someone else's performance. So you get actual lip movements from photographs of the actors. It's kind of weird looking, but at the same time, it's very cool.
It's not like Clutch Cargo looking, where it's just like frozen and just you see lips. Right?
Thankfully, it's better than that because it's also the eyes and stuff like that. But it's a little off-putting.
Okay, yeah. I mean, while we're on the YouTube subject, I came across a person who put in a lot of time. I would not say that the quality of the animation looks like PS1 era CGI. It's more
Microsoft
scribbled.
Paint.
Yeah, Microsoft Paint kind of thing.
Okay.
And you have to admire the person did Mythmakers all the way through, and you would have the characters and they would just kind of slide into scenes like that, like they enter a doorway and they go whoop, like that. And it's an experience. I would say if you've already seen the reconstruction of it, go ahead and watch it. And it's we have fun with it, but seriously, the amount of work the person did, no matter what you want to say about what it was, no matter what the person did, is impressive. And that's one of the things that's great about the Who community is it's something that people can express, they can communicate, they can do things, they can try stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's good just to see someone try something. And unfortunately, the person hasn't. They've done a lot of serials, but they haven't done one. The last upload they did was, I believe, 9 years ago.
Wow.
So, but it's still up there. If you can go up there, it's Doctor Who animator Dr. Dr. Not spelled out, but it's there, and it's fun. And the person put a lot of work into it, and God bless him. It was I appreciate the effort, and it was fun. It is definitely fun.
There's another one that I would like to kind of point out, and this is again on the YouTube scene, and it's actually one of the stories that never got made. It was supposed to be the second serial, and when it didn't come through, they commissioned the Daleks. So we still have a show because of that. But it's called The Masters of Luxor, and there was a group that staged the entire thing. They built sets, they built the robots, they did the characters. It was a full 4-episode production, and it's really good. It's really good, really well done. So look for it.
Speaking of actually remounting things, I wanted to go back to Mission to the Unknown and U-Clan's remount. That was such a smart one to do because none of the series regulars were actually in it. It's the one episode in the entire show that the Doctor isn't in at all. The companions aren't in it. And none of those characters we actually see again in the show. So it's not like it's jarring by taking those characters, having them be played by a bunch of student actors, and then we see them again 2 weeks later with different actors if we were to actually have the next part in that storyline. And yeah, it's incredibly well done. And I don't think any other story would necessarily work in the same way without having William Hartnell or even David Bradley, for example, portraying the first Doctor.
It almost seems like a pilot for a weird Dalek-focused spin-off, doesn't it?
Almost.
But snark aside, technically, the loose cannon reconstructions are because of fans.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were just, we're going over Evil of Daleks, and we were talking about how they added in some of their own live-action shots to it. Like the back of Victoria's head, or like her moving down a hallway. I mean, yeah, it flows with it. I mean, anything that adds to adds to your imagination, that pulls you in more, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So
it doesn't break anything. It doesn't break anything at all.
So anyone watching who is not familiar with the concept of loose cannon is a group of fans headed by a chap called, I believe, Derek Handley, who have been making what we call reconstructions of missing Doctor Who stories since the late 90s. And they are effectively, they've taken the various screen caps of the story that do exist and taken those fan recorded soundtracks that we mentioned earlier and kind of put those images to the soundtrack so you get an idea of what's going on. And occasionally there's text that will like come across the bottom of the screen to tell you like Jamie walks into the room and listens silently or something like that. And it gives you a really good sense of how the story panned out and how it looked.
Mm-hmm.
Some are of a much better quality than others, depending on when they were made. The early ones, 20 years later, are looking pretty ropey, but the more recent ones look quite good. And in fact, now we're getting those really nice Blu-ray releases of the animations. The BBC have hired Derek Handley to come in and do the official reconstructions that accompany those animations as well. So you have the option if you can watch the recon or you can watch the animation depending on which one you like. So that's where the kind of fan efforts and the official efforts have blurred. When Loose Cannon were doing this unofficially, the BBC were aware. They knew they were using their copyright material and they just kind of turned a blind eye to it.
I think we're very lucky for these missing stories that for many of them telesnaps do exist.
Yeah.
Which were these were photographs that were taken almost like screenshots, but they actually set a camera up and took a picture of what was going on.
Yep.
This was done so that the directors would have something for their resume, same for their actors. And except for a certain period, thanks John Wiles, they exist for most of these missing stories.
Right.
So you can combine those with the soundtracks the fan recorded to kind of get an idea of what it actually looked like.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I watch Marco Polo.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We can't get through one of these without talking about John Wiles, can we?
Hey,
His goatee really suited him. That's what I'll say nicely about John Wiles.
at least Richard Martin hasn't come up yet. Oh, I just did it.
No.
I'm not going to take the bait. No comment.
You are the adult among us.
Okay. So are there any additional ways in which you would like to see missing episodes presented?
So I don't know about want to, but I think I know what the future is. You know, as we are moving ahead in technology, there's this concept of deep fake, where you can project someone's face onto another body. So I think what we may end up seeing is effectively people miming to those soundtracks being filmed and then using computer and using technology to project, say, William Hartnell or Patrick Troughton's face onto that person to try and recreate the story. I think that's what's going to happen in the future, and that's the way technology is going to go. I don't know. I'm sure everyone's seen on These Wonderful Things, there's that Reface app that allows you to take a selfie, and it will like put your face on GIFs. A bunch of my friends have been doing that, and they're showing up as like Iron Man. I think that's where missing episodes are probably going to go in 5-10 years time.
I agree completely. That was actually what I was going to mention as far as how that's going to happen. The other thing I would actually like to see is more recreations in the style of Mission to the Unknown.
That.
Absolutely.
You've got these excellent cosplayers that would be more than happy to do it. There's a bunch of people that are budding filmmakers. And I think already having a script and a design idea to go from could give us some really wonderful interpretations of those missing stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know that what helped a little bit with Mission to the Unknown is having the actors who weren't necessarily coming back. But even if we don't get someone who looks exactly like the original cast, I don't necessarily see that as a problem, given that Doctor Who is all about change anyway. You know, what better way to just, you know, be able to still tell the story? It's like, well, the Doctor just has another face.
Absolutely. Anthony, I think your deep fake suggestion is very likely to be a great way that older Doctors will be included in future multi-Doctor anniversary episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I could see happening is the BBC have a channel called BBC 4, which is really dedicated to cultural programming. And maybe for a significant anniversary, I could see them maybe doing their own official remount of something like Marco Polo, starring David Bradley as the first Doctor. I would not hate that.
No.
I would not.
Well, you've got that whole group from the Adventures in Space and Time, the docudrama that was made about the origins of the series. You know, they've been doing Big Finish audio dramas as the original 4 characters. There's no reason to not have the 4 of them do recreations of these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That could be rather fun.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if this would work, but I was thinking that perhaps with episodes that are missing, maybe you could do a combo of animation for the scenes with principal actors and remounts for scenes where none of them are involved at all. I mean, it's basically a mishmash of what you're saying, but instead of just taking it as one episode as a whole, try to cram it all into one. Maybe that'd be too jarring to do, to go from animation to, to remounts to back.
Alan, do you want to talk about that, or shall I?
I was just going to say that's what they kind of did with Shada. They have the footage that was filmed, and then I didn't find it jarring at all.
Okay.
So Shada, for anyone who's not familiar with it, is not quite a missing story. It's really classified as a lost story. It was going to be at the end of season 17, the season finale of Tom Baker's 6th season on the show. And they got about halfway through filming it when it was basically scuppered by strikes at the BBC. And they never finished it. So there was all this unfinished footage, predominantly from the early episodes, that has been out there since the early 80s. And there have been numerous efforts to try and complete it. In the early 90s, Tom Baker did a VHS release where he kind of did linking narration. But more recently, both Ian Levine, who's a well-known superfan, as well as the BBC doing an official version, have done a version of that is live action with the missing scenes filled in by animation with voice actors, whether it was the original cast or supplements, coming in to basically do it as scripted. And it's... I thought the BBC version, they did it as like a 2-hour movie rather than episodic.
Yeah.
That didn't work for me, but the cuts from the animation to the live action weren't actually that jarring.
Right, exactly. I think they really set up a good segue from one to the other at the beginning. And once you have that in your head, once you have adjusted to seeing it that way, then like hard cuts from one to the other later, you just accept as they go.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I like to think is there are a few episodes where we don't have everything that I wouldn't necessarily want to see come back, and I'd rather see them maybe get another chance. So like the Macro Terror, looking at some of the stills of the space crabs, like just didn't really work.
Right.
So it actually, I would prefer to see that kind of redone with a little bit better effects with that, because it's just like, how about we give you another shot?
Macra don't exist. There are no such things as Macra.
So I do have a question for the group. Is how would you feel if they did things using a slightly different animation technique? So how would you like to see, say, Evil of the Daleks done as anime?
Yeah.
Like Studio Ghibli style?
Yeah, why not? That could be fun. It's different.
I agree. I don't think it has to be the same style for everyone.
I don't know if I would want it as anime. And we joke about the following thing a lot, but I would actually like to see the people that do the Doctor Puppet to do puppet versions of the missing serials.
Oh, that would be fun.
I think it would be great.
I think if it were done in the style of 60s filmation,
Ooh.
that would be cool.
Oh.
Like the super marionation things?
No, like the original Star Trek animated series.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was thinking about like Ralph, is it Bakshi?
Ralph Bakshi, yes.
See that style that he did with Lord of the Rings? The Lord of the Rings film? Where that scoping trick of like using like real human beings, but like that would be really cool. It'd be very stylish.
I'll go with Don Bluth and just move on. All of my I grew up with Don Bluth, all right? This is just my 90s my 90s showing. Yeah.
That's pretty fair. No Scanner Dark like filter over episodes. I think that would be kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
With the double layering.
I think we should stage some BritTrack recreations.
Agreed.
Get some of the regulars to act them out.
Agreed.
Definitely.
I think we're ready. I mean, we already have like a space that we can do the Macra claws, like coming in and I'll fall backwards and I'll run away.
All right, who's going to be Jamie who's willing to wear a kilt?
I have 2 of them in my closet, so
There you go.
I'll have to shave.
Obviously,
Just saying.
controller.
Can I not be Susan because I don't want to scream all the time?
Oh, definitely.
That would be great.
You're so Vicky.
That's high praise right there.
That is so high praise.
Yeah, it is. Agreed.
This is fair. So, why are the missing episodes an important part of the Doctor Who fan experience?
It is your immediate follow-up question after you ask, "Oh, well, who's your doctor?"
I mean, I think it's, I don't know, becoming a Doctor Who fan in the 90s when there wasn't new Doctor Who being made, we almost, and it sounds horrible in retrospect because there are so many worse things going on in the world, we almost had like this kind of victim complex as a fan group of, oh no, everyone hates our show. It's lampooned as being campy and bad special effects.
That's true.
We're ridiculed in high school for liking this show. And then on top of that, someone's gone and just destroyed a bunch of the episodes that we love because everyone hates us. I mean, it's really part of that kind of shared suffering.
I always thought it was kind of, what I found so interesting about it is that it allows you to kind of be included in like this mystery and this like lost relics, and it like pulls you in like Indiana Jones or or even better like a Lovecraft like mythos of like there's this book or this story that's out there somewhere in the world and only maybe a collector might have it, and oh, who knows what could be on there, what amazing it could be. And it's kind of cool if you become a Doctor Who fan, how it's like you join this like, you know, mystery club of like here there's this great mystery that we're all part of, and like who knows, and who knows where it could be, and we can talk about imagine what it could be like, and that's just allows your imagination to just go out there and just let yourself just take whatever idea you want to and say like that's what I think that missing serial would be like. That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing. That just really just lights your brain on fire. And I think that's something that I think is really special about it. It's just that everyone is enticed by the curiosity and the mystery, and I just love that.
I think that's my favorite answer from the entire hour.
Thanks.
As cult-like as it makes the whole thing sound, which is in no way super disturbing, I think you're right. The fact, that's just what a cult member would say. The fact that it's unavailable. You can't get it. It's missing. Just makes you want it all the more.
Right.
I mean, there are certain serials that they're lost, and you listen to them, and you probably wouldn't care if they were actually existent. But just the fact that you can't watch it like it was just entices you and makes you want it.
Yeah.
I think it's important because it illustrates how kind of fragile this whole medium is, and it makes you appreciate what we do have, particularly from the 60s, because there's every chance in the world that we would never have had any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also even though everything seems to be available through streaming or somewhere online, there's also this other part of how easily it can be taken away.
Yes.
So I still collect things. I still have physical copies of certain things that I really enjoy because
that's right.
While I think it exists, they say that everything on the internet, will exist forever. I don't know that I believe that.
Also, I know Alan will have experienced this and Caro will, but the excitement when something is returned as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember 2013 when we all knew, because the whispering had been going on for about 2 years that there'd been a big find, but we all knew something was coming soon. And I remember hearing through the various online forums, Gallifrey Base, Facebook missing episodes groups, all that online chatter, the BBC have set up an announcement for tonight. There's an embargo on this. And like staying up, and I think it was released at midnight in the UK time, which meant 7 p.m. here. They sent out that press release, put Web of Fear and Enemy of the World straight onto iTunes. And I'm with Julie. I like having things on physical media, but it was going to be a while before they came out on DVD. So I bought them there and then on iTunes, sat at my laptop, waited 3 hours for them to download, by which time it was 10 o'clock at night, and sat there and watched all of the Enemy of the World, went to bed at like 1 a.m., had work the next day, felt terrible, but it was 100% worth it. That level of excitement is something special.
The last ones that were recovered before 2013, if I remember rightly, was all the way back to 2003, right?
Yeah.
And
2011, Galaxy 4 Episode 3 and Underwater Menace Episode 2.
I'd forgotten about that one. I was thinking of the ones from Master Plan that were released in 2003, and that was a thrill to see those for the first time.
And they got those out pretty quick because they put them on the Lost in Time set, which no one was expecting. I mean, Enemy of the World, they didn't give an official release for about 4 years after they found, not Enemy of the World, Underwater Menace. It took about 4 years for them to give that an official release. And I remember a friend of mine from the UK sending me a DVD-R with the episode burnt on it, like 2 months after the announcement, and I was like, "Oh, no one's going to see this because this hasn't been officially released. I feel special."
Right.
So of course I invited all my friends around who would have cared, and we did a viewing together. But it's that excitement around them. It makes it something fun.
I'm hoping the statute of limitations on that copyright infringement has expired now, because you did just confess to that on the internet.
I just received something. I did not ask for it. I did not make it.
A likely story.
It was only located inside a stuffed teddy bear. It's like just
oh, wow. Well,
Gary's going to have to cut this.
Yeah. So the missing episodes are a big part of the fan experience. I know for myself, I think that they're really important because, especially when it comes to people who are fans of the new series and haven't really delved into the classic series at all, that you kind of already know that the classic series exists, and you think, oh, I can just start at episode 1 and just work my way through, and then you find out, well, you can't, and it's more like a puzzle piece that you have to fit together. So it becomes this like secret handshake amongst Whovians when it comes to sharing the pain of having to find something, or somebody sharing like, there's a fan version of this, go watch it, or there's, the Marco Polo episode, which I actually watched at an Atlanta Gallifreyans meeting, and that paired with Sea Devils was a very odd evening, but
I can imagine.
It was, but I will say that it's a part of the fan experience because it kind of brings the community even closer together. And insofar as not only are we fans and we're celebrating this fandom, but we're also experiencing the want or lack thereof of missing things, and so we can commiserate, amongst each other, and especially when you meet somebody who realizes that they're missing for the first time, and you get to pat them on the back and say, "Okay, I got you,"
and
I got you.
And realizing when you're watching BritBox and all of a sudden goes from like midway through season 2 to season 4, and you're just like, but what happened?
Right.
Oh, that's because they don't exist. Okay, cool. Great.
And that's been one of the interesting things doing the podcast is Reilly did his own watch through a couple of years before this. And now we're filling in the gaps, and Reilly's experiencing all these stories he'd never experienced the first time round because he didn't have access to this stuff or didn't know where to look.
Right.
But I think
so. I mean, I for example, the first Second Doctor story that I remember ever seeing was Tomb of the Cybermen. So way far in there.
Yeah.
Actually, Anthony, you kind of touched on almost a bit of an oblique point, which is when you're looking at these missing episodes, the type of recreation that you watch is going to have a pretty big impact on how you feel about it.
That's true.
I think it was Power of the Daleks, right? Where 3 of us watched the animation and 1 of us watched the loose cannon reconstruction.
Yeah.
And we had wildly different feelings about it just based on the presentation of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it may have been me that watched the loose cannon reconstruction, not the animation.
I wasn't going to call you out, but yes, it was totally.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I wanted to stay that way for a while because I felt like I wanted to I was okay with lack of motion with the stills. I felt like I could get a better feeling of it because I don't know, it just but now I've fallen. I'm fine with the animation. I enjoy it thoroughly.
Well, and we all make sure to watch the black and white animation.
Absolutely.
Because that color just weirds me out. It's like pale pastel, first off, so that's weird anyway. And then obviously this was the era of black and white, so I'm gonna watch it in black and white.
Absolutely.
So
Purist.
I think all of Doctor Who should be in black and white. Once the color shows up, it just weirds me out.
You can turn down the contrast on when we get to the color area. So Caro, I don't think we asked you. Is there a missing Doctor Who story that you would like to see returned?
I don't know. Honestly, I feel so bad for Jamie. He just breaks my heart in general. So I mean, I brought up the Highlanders specifically for that reason, just because I want to see his origin story. I want to see, all the Tartans and all their glory. I want to see all of it. And when it comes to just him and knowing about him, and I think that just getting to know him a little bit better, I guess. And
so you're also going for handsome Scotsmen in kilts, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, you guys just don't understand. I get you.
Does Ben get shirtless in the Highlanders? Because that's another, strong point.
This is true. This is true.
I think he might do.
I think so. That's actually in the Smugglers.
Smugglers is the episode of Shirtless Men. So
yes, it is. Yes.
I mean, they're pirates. Obviously, that's what's going to happen.
Arr.
Arr.
That's right. Well, on that pirate note, we're going to end our wonderful panel. I really thank you guys for laughing through this and for sharing your wisdom, especially educating those who don't really know a lot about the missing episodes of Doctor Who, and sharing all your wonderful thoughts. So, Anthony, where can people locate your podcast?
So you can find us at watches4d.podbean.com, or you can find us wherever you like to get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, etc., etc. And that's Watches in the Fourth Dimension.
Which is a fabulous show. I will
Thank
say.
you, Alan.
Thanks.
So, Alan, where can people find your collective writings?
Well, you can read all about Doctor Who, including some of the missing stories, by checking out a couple of my books. You are available at cosmicpress.com, which is KOZMIC press.com.
Great. And you can also find the BritTrack at the BritTrack. We have various different social media platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So feel free to comment, join, and have fun with all things. So thank you. We're going to sign off for now. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And thanks, DragonCon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.